Welcome back, Savages. So we're asking the question, are there paranormal entities in space? And how do they communicate with us? We're mixing it up a little bit. So during our podcasts we did weeks ago about isolation, I had made a comment about doing a podcast on the sounds of outer space, and apparently one of our followers really liked that idea. So thank you. We tried to find the TikTok to find out who it was that ran with the theme of doing sounds in outer space. So I apologize. I don't remember who you are. But if you happen to see this and you know it was you, just shoot us a message and whatnot.
Shoot us a message.
Shoot us a message. Shut up. I can't talk today. So we've got a couple little things, as we know, but we do know that the astronauts that had been up in space longer than they were supposed to be did finally make it home. So thank the big guy, I guess. I don't friggin' know.
Thank somebody.
Yeah, thank somebody. But they did finally make it home. But our thought process was, when we were doing the whole thing about isolation, is we know that outer space, we are not scientists, we're probably going to get this wrong. Bleh. We know that outer space is vastly huge.
There is no sound to speak of.
Yes. How does that play into some of the factors of the astronauts that have come back and there are articles that astronauts have heard things that they should not have been able to hear.
Yes.
So we have one that I think is actually pretty recent. Yeah. So the most recent astronauts that were up in space, the Boeing's Starliner docked into the International Space Station. So they talk about when that had actually landed, and they talk about how they were hearing banging sounds.
It docked in June of 2024.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking for that and I must have missed it. But they were talking about hearing banging sounds that they should have not been able to hear.
I think, isn't this the one that they heard voices?
No, this is the one where it sounded like somebody was like banging on the side of like where they were, almost like, you know how people like in movies like they hit a pipe against metal. They kept hearing that. It was concerning because they were questioning it, and then they were being just told, oh, it's nothing, but they know that those sounds aren't,
and there should have been nothing that could have been banging on anything, because they're in space.
So NASA pretty much told them, like, it's part of the audio system, it's complex, sometimes you'll get like noises. We go back and forth. We've talked about this a few times about how parallel dimensions and whatnot and extraterrestrials and whatnot, who's to say that it wasn't one of the little green guys knocking up there and be like, yo, why are you in my space?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Or whether or not it's the spiritual realm and they found heaven.
Or
hell.
The different dimensions, do they have an outer space?
Ooh. That's a good question.
Because, like, you can jump from one dimension to the next, so if you're an astronaut in that dimension, did you dock on the space station in that dimension, and now you're over here going, what the hell?
I didn't even think about that.
I don't know.
Yeah, that could very well be like a whole... That could be like a whole thing. Because if you're to get to space, we all know that we just kind of launch people. I don't know how it works. All I know is the rocket ship goes up.
It take off,
But who's to say once you get out of Earth's atmosphere that you aren't pulled into
that other timeline, that other dimension, whatever you want to call it.
Because we know astronauts have come back and things to them seem different. Yeah. Things to them seem... Because their bodies have to catch up with like gravity and everything else, and everything changes for them.
Time passes differently in space.
So what could be minutes up there could be, what, hours down here? It brings us back to the Interstellar movie, where the thought process was that this man, he goes into space and he's saying goodbye to his loved ones and whatnot. He knows he's never going to see him again, but then he realizes that he is in another dimension where he is the one that has to tell everybody what to do and whatnot without actually speaking to them. So how do we know that this isn't that type of situation?
You've got, okay, this timeline over here is shooting off this rocket. This timeline over here is shooting off this rocket. And let's say Joe and Steve are on this rocket.
Oh,
and
Steve, he's an astronaut now.
And then this timeline, Joe and Steve are astronauts, and they both go. What if they go like this?
Then, yeah, they miss each other completely.
Or what if they both go and they both land in the same area, the same International Space Stations in different timelines? Steve's over here knocking for, I forgot the other guy's name.
Joe.
Steve's knocking for Joe. And this Steve over here hears this Steve knocking because they're both right there.
Right. That would be some...
You walk out, you'd go to do your spacewalk, and you're like, I'm there. How am I there? I'm here.
Oh, and that's the thing, too, is we know astronauts have seen things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have had to have seen things that don't make sense to them.
Yeah, I was reading one. This guy, he was doing a spacewalk, wherever, and the one guy saw what he can only assume were UFOs that were docked. Another guy saw something that resembled like a shoe.
Weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Steve from the other rocket lost his shoe. I don't know.
There's also, too, I know that there have been like glares and flashes of light that have come from somewhere, but they don't know where it came from. And anytime you call back to NASA, they're just like, oh, it's fine. But it's not fine, because that's how you get sucked into black holes and you end up in different planets, or you end up like Fry from Futurama and you live on a whole new planet with a whole new species.
Yes. Or you end up in Star Wars. No, thank you.
Why?
No, thank you.
You don't want to sit and dine with a bunch of aliens at a bar?
No, that scene messed me up as a kid. No.
I will never not have fun with that one now that I know how much it bothers you.
I still, to this day, if the kids are watching it, I still cannot watch that scene because I just remember being terrified as a kid.
I would think it's cool. You just walk in and, you've got Steve with 3 eyes and like an extra arm, and he's got a family.
I will take a werewolf, a vampire, a wraith, a demon, whatever. Keep those to yourself. No, thank you.
April really doesn't like aliens.
No.
At all.
No.
So if anybody wants to send her one of those things, just let me know.
I will give you her address.
I'll make a P.O. box and you can send her all of the alien things, because it would make my day.
Make my day. No.
We're going to have a bonfire. This has got to go. This has got to go. This has got to go.
Oh, God. Then there was another one I was reading, too. I don't know when this one happened. But they were actually over on the dark side of the moon, where there is they don't even have contact with, like...
To the dark side.
All I think is Ozzy Osbourne. With Dark Side of the Moon. Mm-hmm. They can't even communicate with... Now I forgot what they were called. The home base.
NASA?
Yes, but there wasn't a mission control.
Oh, okay.
They can't even communicate with them as they're going through this.
Oh.
But yet they had sounds, they had voices, they had, and they still to this day, there's no. And from what they were told was that it was interference from their intercom system to the intercom system in the shuttle. Yeah.
But it was a whole different conversation
And it
that was
wasn't
going
their
on.
voices.
No, which goes back to the theory of a parallel universe where there was a whole other set of astronauts, or maybe it was them themselves that was having a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Type thing. And to this day, it's still reported that it was just an intercom crossing wires and whatnot, and they were just hearing the echoing back of everything that they had talked about, or they were hearing the echo back from mission control finally cutting out, which doesn't make any sense, especially because it isn't their voices. And it wasn't just one of them that heard it, it was all of them.
Yeah.
But it seems like the biggest thing in that they're hearing is knocking, which, coming from inside or outside, is scary to think about. I'm gonna sneeze.
It's all the pollen blowing in the window.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm gonna die.
Now, how messed up would that be if you're this guy on the ship and you hear knocking and you look out the little window hole and there's a little green face looking back at
I would be like, yo! So this was an article from BBC News from 2016. Yang Liwei, China's first man in space on his maiden flight in 2003. Wow, that seems like a long time ago. He's recalling hearing someone knocking the body of the spaceship just as knocking an iron bucket with a wooden hammer.
It's very specific.
It is yes, and that's why this article, I was like, ooh, that's weird, because it is very specific. But they're chalking it up to the sounds that meteors make hitting together, or stars combining and blowing up and whatnot.
There's no medium for sound to travel in space. So how could that be from meteors smashing together, or stars blowing up, or whatever? But
it says naturally he got a bit nervous and peeked out of the porthole, but failed to spot any explanation for the eerie knock. That goes back to what she said. If you could imagine looking out the little porthole, and all of a sudden you just see George mowing his lawn on some kind of planet, and this is why I stay on the ground. I don't like to fly. I don't want to get on a cruise unless I'm hiding from zombies. Then I will dock in the middle of the water. But
you can't dock in the middle of the water. You can throw anchor, but you can't dock.
Whatever. I ain't moving. If the zombies can't get me, that's where I'm staying. Okay? Shut up. But they tried to recreate the sound a couple times, but he was unable to identify it, which, again, when you're in space, your whole body is just misaligned.
Okay, so let's go down that road. Even the chemicals in your brain could be off.
Yeah.
So these all could be things that you're not really hearing, but your brain thinks you are.
Yeah.
It could be some form of, for lack of a better way to say it, space-induced mental illness.
Yeah. Goes back into isolation.
Yeah.
Where your body starts thinking it's hearing things because you're by yourself.
Yeah.
NASA chalked it up to something that could be hitting the side of a spacecraft, which again can happen, but he was very specific about what he heard.
Yeah.
And I believe him. Oh, that's a weird name. His colleague, We Song So, I am so sorry. Stop
we
it.
sing song.
We are professionals. We sang so. I'm so sorry. You have a great name. Sorry. It brings a different explanation to the table, suggesting it could have been a result of expansion or contraction of the spaceship, which, again, can happen. We know that shuttles and whatnot are made to change once they are up in space. But again, it's a very distinct sound of somebody hitting the side of the rocket. I'm
confused over the next little tagline in this article. It says, it's not that unusual to hear sound in space. 4 paragraphs up, it said, wait, hold on. There is no medium for sound to travel. Therefore, space is silent.
Yeah.
Yet the next one, in fact, it's not all that unusual to hear sound in space.
Who are you trying to mimic right there? What was that?
I don't know.
I mean, that was just a whole other level right there.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm laughing so hard I'm crying right
But that's true. A 1969 test flight for the moon landing mission orbited the moon. Oh, here we
That's
go.
another one of those
Yeah.
where they went to the dark side.
Come to the dark side. We have cookies. So yeah, in 1969, a test flight for the moon landing mission orbited the moon, and on the far side, while cut off from radio contact with Earth, the astronauts heard a strange sound that they couldn't explain. The whistling sound was described as space music by them, but the information was, of course, held classified until recently. The actual recording of the sound was only made public earlier this year, which I do think there's a recording that we might be able to put up.
There's a whole bunch.
There was. They were creepy. I had to stop listening to them. But NASA goes back, this is what we were talking about earlier. NASA pretty much chalked it up to just interference with between their microphones and like the sound system inside the ship. But even they described it as sounds that you shouldn't have been able to pick up at all because, according to all the other articles, there's no sounds in space.
But if you do a Google
the aliens.
search for the sounds in space, it's kind of cool.
It is
Some
cool,
of them
but
are
creepy.
a little creepy, but
Yeah.
some of them are like really kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because there's ones where the sun, there's one of the sounds that the sun makes. It's kind of cool. It's just like a rumbling, humming sound.
Of the fire that is on the sun.
I guess. I don't know. But
Yeah.
supposedly, since there is no sound in space, they take the data and turn that into the sound. But there's whistling, there's like humming, there's as you go through.
George is just trying to mow his lawn and he's looking
right.
for his dog.
And he's got his headphones on and he's just trying to sing. As you go through the rings, there's different sounds for that. It's really cool.
I would love that, but no, because I'm not leaving the ground. Unless we're taking a shuttle to get to Mars and then that's where we're going to live.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a choice as long as I can bring my pets.
Mars is kind of hot though.
Not unless you go, yeah, but you'd have to go underground. Yeah, we would live underground.
That's all right. I like
being a hermit. I'm okay with that.
I like the dark. But I don't know. There's green men up there. I don't know if I like the dark.
We don't know if there's green men up there. But you can...
Oh, no, they'd probably be red on Mars.
Dear Jesus, Mary and Joseph, help me.
They're not helping you. After our last podcast, they're not helping.
No, Jesus is looking down like, no, you're a lost cause.
Smite you.
Goodbye. I'm open for the smite.
Dude, if your eyeballs light up, I'm out.
I'm blind, I can't see. But I'll be a walking glow stick. We are so off topic. But it's funny. Well, then I would blend in with the aliens because in some movies their eyeballs glow.
Yeah.
And then you can say that your best friend's an alien and then she won't talk to me ever again.
Sounds like a TV show.
My best friend's an alien. She was smited by Jesus and this is what happened. We are going to hell. And pushing buttons. Oh, God. But yeah, there have been a lot of astronauts that have come forward after the fact when they could speak out about things. But it's coming out more and more that NASA is releasing things that sometimes they don't make a whole lot of sense. Especially because they're like, oh, it was this timeline. But you're like, according to the news articles, this was the timeline. So where were you?
Yeah.
So whether or not they're just piecing things together to make the humankinds happy, or if they're releasing things that they know that is going to sound like nonsense, but you're going to have some Joe Schmo up the road and sitting behind his little computer with all of his monitors being like, no, I can pinpoint this sound. And then you hear children laughing and I would cry. That was a whole spiel. I was just on a rant.
I'm going to be honest, you lost me about halfway through, but yes.
Yeah. Look, think about it. All the documents that have been released by NASA, people have gone through, picked apart, and was like, okay, this is the timeline that they gave us, but this is what happened during that timeline, and those timelines don't match up.
Yes.
So where did this data versus this data come from?
This is what they want you to think. This is what happened.
Yeah, and then just think about the sounds. You could have NASA uploading all of these things that are classified, and then you've got those weirdos that sit in their, that sit in their offices in the dark, dank basements, and they're like, no, listen to this. You can clearly hear that there are sounds of people talking that shouldn't be there. That would creep me out.
Then you also have to think, going down a real big conspiracy theory here.
That's fine.
NASA and CERN and all of those whom we shall not mention.
FBI, CIA, come get us.
There's theories out there that they are going to make this big holographic ET invasion. It wouldn't surprise me if they are planning something like that, that NASA's going to come out and release this, and then they're going to release this, and then they're going to release this. Chances are what they're releasing is not real. It's probably something they made to eventually lead up to this, which the whole conspiracy theory is they're going to use the blue beam and CERN and all that stuff, and they're going to create this huge holographic alien, I hate that freaking word, invasion. And
like
then,
in the sky?
Yeah.
Well, that's stupid.
Oh, it gets better.
Okay.
So then we're going to have Jesus come down and save the day, and that's going to drive everybody into the one religion, which all goes under the whole one world leader thing.
Do you remember the big alien things from the Avengers when they come in from New York City and they look like giant lizards?
Yeah.
Okay. I just pictured Jesus coming in on a UFO with the lizards, and he's holding raised. He's let's
just gonna float down on his little cloud.
And then he's gonna trip over a rock and fall on his face.
But the lizard thing goes with the other ones that we shall not name, because they're saying that they're all lizard people. So that's a whole nother one. But I had another thought, but that
See, this is why I pray to entities that are not Jesus and lizard people. Oh, hell, we're naming our kid after one.
Well, she's pretty freaking cool if you ask me.
Unless her eyes are black when she's born, then I'll be like, well, there you go.
Yep.
Solves that problem right there.
Better black than red.
Oh.
Or yellow.
It can't be yellow.
No.
He'd get flicked in the forehead. Go away.
So, not only have they heard strange sounds, but there's also been reports, like I said, with the UFOs that they've seen, the other thing like a shoe. They've also claimed that they've seen other things flying through space.
And that goes back into the whole thing of being isolated for so long that your body wants to think that you're in an area with other people when you start hearing things. But even things like flying by, it could be space junk. You have rocks and meteors and whatnot that fly by super quickly.
You want to know some things that are floating around up there?
Plastic bottles.
No, it's actually quite disturbing.
Okay.
Back in the early days of space travel, they used to send up animals.
Yep, I know. I don't want to talk about it.
So you will see frozen bodies. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
No, that's very disturbing to me when I was reading that.
Yeah, because they never brought the animals home, did they?
No, they're
No.
just floating around in space.
Yeah.
They're not even in aircraft. So how would you catch one to bring it home? They're just literally bodies floating. Some of them.
But they had to have gone up in something.
But I think the one article said, now, again, we're not scientists, we're going off of what we read. But the one article said they were testing out different environments and how bodies would react to them. So some of them, they say, are just frozen, floating around.
This is why I hate humans.
Yes. It's gross.
Humans are terrible. This is why I don't work with humans.
No.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That makes me mad.
Yeah.
Send Elon Musk up there and never bring him back. And Donald Trump.
Throw him out the door. Here you go.
Bye!
See how long you can survive. Although he's, I don't know. People say he's a robot, so he might be just fine. That was one of the other things in one of those other weird articles I was reading, that they were saying that some of the alien life forms are actually like robotic. They're like made out of metal instead of...
How many times have we seen it in movies where they've gone to like other planets and they have half human, half robots?
Again, another reason this whole AI thing is not a good idea.
No.
Because they probably did it first, and look how that ended up for them.
Yeah. And then there's like the most recent Alien Predator movie that's coming out, that they're taking the spin of how the alien DNA? I don't remember.
I don't know.
But how half of it, yeah, I know, but how half of it was like human DNA, and they're like, how do you get human DNA with alien DNA?
Hello?
The birds and the bees, ladies and gentlemen. But
No. No.
But you have all these movies that depict alien life forms that do look human, but they have like extraterrestrial capabilities and whatnot. Who's to say that's not out there now?
And then you also have, because whoever they are, they say they walk among us every day because they have cloaking abilities. You go meet Steve at a bar. You and Steve get married a year later. You and Steve now have a baby that comes out with 4 heads and 3 arms.
That's just more mouths to feed.
Well, but he only has 1 stomach, so it's going to be the same amount of food.
True, that's good. But that would be awesome.
No.
You would freak out, but I'd be like, yo, can I see your skin? What color are you?
You ain't putting it back in, but it's not going home with me. Here you go.
I would love to think of the idea that extraterrestrials live among us. Who's to say they didn't hitch a ride on a rocket ship on the way home? Why are you laughing? I don't understand.
Because I have the little Einsteins going through my head.
Oh my god.
Was it our favorite rocket ship or our little rocket ship?
Yes.
Flying through the
Skies,
skies.
little Einsteins. I can't stand you today. My god.
This is what happens when I'm tired.
I think the whole aspect of space is bigger than what we know, that's for damn sure. Because we haven't explored all of space.
No.
I don't think we can unless we move to another planet and then go from that one.
And who's to say there isn't sound out there? We just don't know how to hear it.
You need extraterrestrial ears. Bloop.
Little radar antenna.
Man, that makes me want to sit on your roof now with one of those.
Those big things. Yeah.
Yes, and point it towards the sky. Your neighbor's got the good idea. Let's go
They're
over
not
there.
home. They're camping.
They're looking for aliens.
They might be one.
That's
That would
it.
not surprise me.
We're gonna go across the street, and we're gonna sit underneath their little tower things that they've got and see if we can get some sound.
Okay.
The first time I hear a man's voice, though, coming from space, I'm nope. No. That's all the truth that I needed. Thanks.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I'm good. Bye. No, but maybe the way that we have learned sound works, like how it travels,
Yeah.
maybe there's more to it than what we know.
Well, we know that, like, with animals, like, they can hear sounds that we can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that we know from what we do that their eardrums and stuff are built different. And because they have those dog whistles, which dogs can only hear, but...
I can hear them. Oh, they hurt my head.
Oh, it's a high-pitched, oh, it hurts terribly, but...
What does that say about us?
We're part dogs.
Bark, bark. I'm a chihuahua.
Of all people. But no, they do have, but they talk about how animals can hear sounds that people can't. And what if it's the same type of concept of being in space, is that your body starts to adjust to being a different atmosphere. So then your hearing and everything changes too.
Yeah. And if you're born in that atmosphere, you're probably born able to hear there.
That was a whole lot of... Here, there, everywhere.
Sorry, my brain's still stuck on Chihuahua, because then I'm like, ooh, maybe we should go run through the forest on a full moon and see what happens.
I would trip over a log and I would fall down. We're not doing that.
Maybe your werewolf would kick in and you'd just start going. But don't be like Steve and leave your clothes. And then go eat your family.
So if none of you have watched our previous videos, somehow in a werewolf thing, when we were all dressed up, we got on this whole rant about a man's named Steve. We don't even know. I mean,
It was just a name.
It was just a name. What great, but you have to watch it in order to understand why we're laughing so hard.
I think he edited most of it out because he said we just went too much with Steve.
But it had a point.
It did.
It did.
And it was a good one.
Yeah, just like now. Who's to say that with all these astronauts, because there have been a lot of people that have gone up into space, are just afraid to come forward with what they've heard and what they've seen because of the repercussions that we know that the government can have against them.
And I would assume they probably have an NDA in their contract to go up in space.
That's a good point.
Because not only...
I would sign a fake name and be like, that's not my signature. That's not my name.
The facilities they go through for training, all the training they do,
Oh, God.
everything that they see before they even get on this ship, plus everything they see once they're up there,
Yeah.
they have to have an NDA.
Oh, yeah. I almost want to ask these people, did you have to sign any magical paperwork?
No, we did not.
And then it goes back to, is the Illuminati a part of space?
Oh, I'm sure.
There's probably... I bet you that there is already some people that are drilling holes on Mars.
That's where their main headquarters is.
Yeah. Blizzard people. Yeah.
If you ever get bored one day, go down that deep dive. The whole lizard people, because there's videos out there
Yeah, they have video... like
of where these lizard people are supposedly wearing masks, and you see like where... I'm going to say it's probably done by AI, but it looks like you can see the things in their necks where their gills would be when they breathe. Oh, it's creepy. And then they have some of them, Katy Perry's one of them, where when she blinks, her eyes turn to lizard eyes.
Yes, there was also one where Justin Timberlake did it too.
Yeah, that's what I said. They're probably AI, but if you ever get bored...
You could do that with outer space too.
Yeah.
Go down a rabbit hole of what people have seen, and because they talk about how some people have seen through telescopes. Shut up. Telescopes.
Well, it depends. If it's the galaxy around the pug's neck, like in MIB, then they probably would use a microscope.
Frank. And it was a cat.
Oh, yeah, it was the cat.
Yeah, it was Orion.
Yeah.
The Orions.
Yeah, Orion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, get your movie facts right. But they were talking about the people that had the telescopes that were able to see what looked like lights coming from other planets.
Yeah.
There were cities and whatnot. Who's to say there's not other cities up on planet? We are not the only things that exist. I think. A
In
weird thought.
reality, we can't be.
No. So the people with the telescopes, not the microscopes, have been able to see lights on other planets. So who's to say there isn't life on other planets? Because we're not the only people that exist.
No, in reality, we can't be.
No. That's what people want us to think, though.
Why am I admitting to this?
Because you like aliens.
No, 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 no.
All right, guys. I'm going to creep April out some more, so. Goodbye.
Bye.